Hello and welcome to our podcast episode number 104, The Hunt for Osama bin Laden and the Mission That Changed History. I am Timothy and as always here with me, my dear friend Thomas. Tonight we are going to discuss a film called Zero Dark 30. So glad that you, dear viewer, could join our film night.
Zero Dark 30 is a 2012 American historical drama thriller film directed by Catherine Bigelow about the decade-long manhunt for Osama bin Laden, leader of Al-Qaeda. The story follows CIA analyst Maya's relentless pursuit to locate and ultimately help kill bin Laden in a daring U.S. military raid on his Pakistani compound in 2011. Well, Timothy, what's your take on Zero Dark 30?
Well, Tom, I must say that I found Zero Dark 30 to be an engrossing and suspenseful film. It really captures the intensity of the search for Osama bin Laden and the dedication of those involved in finding him. However, as a historical drama, I do have some concerns about its accuracy in depicting certain events and characters. While the film was based on real-life events, it does take some creative liberties which can sometimes blur the line between fact and fiction.
Now you've touched upon my biggest issue with Zero Dark 30, Timothy. While it is lauded for its authenticity, I found it to be more of an embellished Hollywood version of events, rather than a true-to-life depiction of what actually transpired. Furthermore, the film paints a rather bleak and detached picture of those involved in the hunt for bin Laden. It portrays them as cold, emotionless robots who are consumed by vengeance and their quest for justice, which I believe glorifies a very dark side of human nature.
Well, Thomas, while I can understand your concerns about accuracy, I do believe that Zero Dark 30 succeeds in capturing the sense of urgency and determination that drove those involved in finding bin Laden. And as for portraying them as detached and robotic, I think that's just part of the genre.
It's a thriller.
Not a feel-good comedy. So, Tom, what do you make of Maya played brilliantly by the talented actress? And
Excuse me, Timothy, but we were discussing the film, not its cast members' beauty. As I was saying, Maya is portrayed as a driven and relentless CIA analyst who sacrifices personal life for the pursuit of justice. While her dedication to finding bin Laden is commendable, I found her character to be somewhat unlikable due to her lack of emotion and human connection throughout the film.
Well, Tom, I think Maya's portrayal as a cold, unemotional character adds to the film's overall tension and suspense. It makes her relentless pursuit all the more compelling. And when she finally gets that call confirming bin Laden's death, well, let's just say that it's an emotional moment even for a stone-cold character like Maya. So, Tom, what did you think of the film's portrayal of torture as an effective means to obtain information? Do you believe that it's something that really happened in real life, or was it exaggerated for dramatic effect?
Yes, Timothy. I must admit that torture does play a significant role in the film's plot. While some may argue it was necessary to extract crucial information from suspected terrorists, I personally find the portrayal of torture as a legitimate tool for gathering intelligence to be questionable at best and morally reprehensible at worst. The film presents torture as an effective means to obtain vital information without delving into the ethical implications or long-term consequences of such actions. In real life, the effectiveness of torture in extracting reliable information is highly debatable, and its use by governments like the United States post 9/11 has raised serious concerns about human rights violation. While I understand that Zero Dark 30 is a fictionalized account of these events, it's important to remember that art can influence public opinion and shape perceptions of real-life issues. The glorification of torture in this film may unintentionally normalize such practices in the minds of some viewers, which is a worrying thought indeed. So, Timothy, what do you think? Do you believe that torture was indeed a necessary tool in the fight against terrorism? Should it ever be condoned, even in the pursuit of justice.
Well, Thomas, while I understand your concerns about the portrayal of torture in the film, it's important to remember that Zero Dark 30 is a work of fiction and not a documentary. As such, it has certain creative liberties to explore different facets of the story. However, I do agree with you that torture should always be considered as a last resort and only when there are no other viable options available. The use of torture as a routine interrogation technique is morally questionable and can lead to unforeseeable consequences, not just for the individuals involved, but also for international relations and the reputation of the countries that condone such practices. So, Tom, let's shift gears a bit and talk about something more lighthearted like the filming process. I've heard that one of the most challenging scenes to shoot was the raid on bin Laden's compound. How did director Catherine Bigelow and her team manage to make it look so realistic? Did they actually film on location in Pakistan, or did they build a set for the scene?
Ah, Timothy, you always have a knack for steering conversations towards my favorite topic, filmmaking. The raid sequence was indeed one of the most challenging scenes to shoot, as it had to capture the intensity and realism of the actual operation. Director Bigelow and her team did extensive research and preparation for the scene, including training the cast and crew in combat tactics and weapons handling. They also consulted with several military advisors, including real-life operators who had actually participated in the raid, to ensure accuracy. Instead of filming on location in Pakistan, which posed too great a risk to the crew's safety, they built a massive set in Los Angeles that replicated the compound down to the smallest detail. The attention to detail was so spot on that even some of the actual operators who had been part of the real raid reportedly had trouble distinguishing between the two. The scene itself was shot using a mixture of handheld cameras and Steadicams, giving it an immersive, first-person perspective that heightens the sense of danger and urgency. The use of night vision and thermal imaging technology further adds to the realism of the sequence, transporting the audience right into the heart of the operation. So, Timothy, what do you think about the film's portrayal of the raid on bin Laden's compound? Did it manage to evoke a sense of urgency and danger in you as a viewer?
Well, Thomas, I must admit that the portrayal of the raid on bin Laden's compound was indeed quite realistic, and it did manage to evoke a sense of urgency and danger in me as a viewer. The use of handheld cameras and Steadicams gave the scene a visceral, immersive feel, which I thought was very effective in transporting us right into the heart of the operation. Additionally, the attention to detail in terms of military tactics and equipment was commendable, further adding to the authenticity of the sequence. However, as much as I enjoyed the technical aspects of the filmmaking, I could not help but reflect on the ethical implications of glorifying such intense violence and questionable methods in the pursuit of justice. While it's important for cinema to explore controversial topics like torture and military action, we must also be mindful of the potential negative impact these portrayals can have on audiences, especially those who might not fully understand the nuances of real-life situations. So, Thomas, what are your thoughts on the ethical implications of depicting such brutal tactics in mainstream cinema? Should there be any sort of censorship or warning labels for films like Zero Dark 30 that portray controversial themes?
Well, Timothy, as much as I agree with you about the potential negative impacts of glorifying controversial topics in mainstream cinema, it is ultimately up to the individual viewer to draw their own conclusions and understand the difference between fiction and reality. Cinema has always been a powerful medium for exploring difficult subjects and provoking conversations, even if we don't always agree with the message being conveyed. As for censorship or warning labels, I believe that it would be a slippery slope to start regulating artistic expression in such a way as it could easily lead to a homogenization of creativity and stifle the very freedom of speech we purportedly champion. Moving on to your question about the actors and their characters in Zero Dark 30, I must say that the cast delivers performances that are both hauntingly realistic and deeply affecting. Maya, played by the talented Jessica Chastain, is a complex character who embodies determination, resilience, and perhaps even vengeance in her relentless pursuit of bin Laden. She's driven by her own personal trauma, which adds layers of nuance to her characterization. As for the supporting cast, including James Gandolfini as Sia director Leon Panetta and Kyle Gass as Johnston, they all bring their prime game to their respective roles, further elevating the overall impact of the film. Now, Timothy, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the performances of these actors in bringing their characters to life. Did you have any favorites or moments that stood out for you? And how do you think these portrayals compare to real-life individuals who were part of the actual operation?
Well, Thomas, I must say that while I enjoyed the performances across the board, I found Jessica Chastain's portrayal of Maya to be particularly riveting. Her ability to convey both the relentless determination and the deep emotional turmoil of her character was truly remarkable. As for the supporting cast, each member brought their own unique flair to their respective role, further enhancing the realism of the film. As for how these portrayals compare to the actual individuals involved in the operation, I'd like to stress that while Zero Dark 30 is based on real events, and some of the characters may have been inspired by real people, it's important to remember that it's still a work of fiction. The film takes artistic license to craft an engaging narrative that serves as a commentary on the complexities of tracking down terrorists. Now, moving on to your question about other films or TV series that were influenced by Zero Dark 30, I would like to bring up 24-inch, which premiered just 1 year earlier than Zero Dark 30. While there are obvious differences between the two mediums and formats, it's hard not to notice the similarities in the portrayal of anti-terrorism operatives, dealing with high-stakes missions that span over multiple seasons, the use of real-time cameras, fast-paced action sequences, and intense interrogation scenes are all hallmarks of both shows and further popularize the ticking clock style of storytelling in this genre. What do you think about these influences, Thomas? Are there any other films or TV series that came after Zero Dark 30 that you believe were inspired by its groundbreaking approach to realism?
Well, Timothy, I think we've covered quite a lot ground today, from the complex portrayal of Maya, played by Jessica Chastain, to the film's influence on subsequent works like 24. As for other films or TV series that came after Zero Dark 30, I would argue that many post-9/11 thrillers have been inspired by its groundbreaking approach to realism and gritty portrayal of the war on terror. From Homeland to Showtime's own hit series, Homeland, the legacy of Zero Dark 30 continues to be felt in the entertainment industry today. But before we wrap up, I'd like to take this opportunity to remind our viewers that while movies and TV shows can provide us with a glimpse into the world of espionage and counterterrorism, they should not be taken as a substitute for actual facts and information. It's crucial that we remain informed and vigilant in our efforts to combat real-life threats to global security. So, dear viewers, I hope you've enjoyed our discussion today about the Oscar-nominated thriller, Zero Dark 30. Don't forget to share your own thoughts on this film and its impact on popular culture in the comments section below. Remember to like, subscribe, and spread the word about our channel. Until next time, farewell, and remember, truth is stranger than fiction, but sometimes it makes for compelling cinema.
Well said, Tom, and let's not forget the importance of supporting independent creators like ourselves who are dedicated to exploring complex topics through the lens of art and entertainment. So again, please head over to our YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. Leave a thoughtful comment or two, and don't hesitate to share this video with your friends and family members who might be interested in joining us for future discussions about cinema, politics, and the world we live in. See you next time